Dear Colgate, I love that you love that I love being at home. You even let me whiten my teeth from home. Because you know how I feel about getting up from my cloud couch. The Colgate Optic White LED Kit gives professional-level results in just 10 minutes a day for 10 days when used as directed. And that's why, Colgate, I want you to meet my parents. Because ever since meeting you, I've been living life to the brightest. Colgate Optic White. Find it at all major retailers.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Joe, we are finally at as close to the finish line as we can get for this season. This is the penultimate season episode, the Man of the Year. You've been talking up this episode, and there's a lot of things for us to discuss in this episode and obviously to discuss next week. But I think the most important thing that I need to jump into us talking about right now as it pertains to the episode The Man of the Year, is that they're talking about lipstick parties in this episode. What is happening? Wow.
What is a lipstick party?
Wait, Joe, do you not know what a lipstick party is?
I imagine it has something to do with fellatio.
It does. It's that everybody at the party wears a different shade of lipstick, and that when they're done, the male member looks like a rainbow from all of the different lipsticks smattering on there, which is why I cannot believe that this was discussed on a Fox television show watched by teens.
Yeah, no, just no.
Which side note, as far as I know, this is not a real thing. Like, this is a thing that was like either made up by a bunch of frat boys and then applied to like porn in the mid 2000s. But it is like obscurest of obscure nonsense. And the fact that it's mentioned in this episode with no explanation, probably because they couldn't explain it. But like, it is chaotic. And the idea that her just not going to one of these parties has led to this level of vengefulness is like, I'm like, you could have come up with a trillion better things for this whole like situation. That being said, I did enjoy this aspect of the episode. Hate it the Sandy part of it. Really didn't like the Ryan and Volchek part of it. But the goofiness of like this weird, shitty Ocean's 11 heist concept with Marissa and Caitlin, I was like, this is what I always want the OC to be, is like this. Like innocent nonsense done by a bunch of dumb, spoiled teens. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like her putting on that shitty fake accent and him just like calling it out immediately. And then her immediately going into like plan B of being like, anyway, I'm a stripper. Let's go to your room. Like,
yeah. Do you want me to take my clothes off or not?
Yeah. Like, which is what I ask everybody when they come to my house.
Yeah.
I did write though at the start of this episode, and this is a positive. The cinematography for the opening sequence of this episode is kind of insane. I really like it.
It gives Veronica Mars flashback from the season 1, like flashbacks to the her friend getting Lily, whatever her name is.
Yeah,
right?
It's just like a slight tinge of Sepatone put across the file. Yeah, it's great. What I don't love, so Volchek lies to Ryan, or lies for Ryan, when he gets him to the hospital, but he's still ready to fight. And I wrote this very long thing where I said, I'm very confused by Ryan at this point. There's cops right there. All you have to do, I know that Ryan is afraid of his record or whatever. All you have to do is say, I need help. This guy has been stalking myself and my ex-girlfriend, attacked me unprovoked, and I did this in self-defense, and he is still threatening to continue to come after me. I need a restraining order. I need you to do literally anything right now. Like, and he has so many people who will back up the psychotic things that Volchek has been doing for the last, 5 episodes. And instead, he goes to steal a car with him to try to, make things even out. It's just infuriating because it's like, Ryan, you're smarter than this, dude. You're about to so much smarter. Yeah, you're so much smarter than this.
And it's also like, this is a flashback or a callback to season 1, like the first scene of season 1, the whole thing that gets him into the mess that he meets Sandy with is like he gets roped into stealing a car, right, with Trey.
Well, this week and next week, there is a lot of, hey, remember the good old days of season 1, throwback shots? But yes, this is literally the opening scene of the first episode of the OC. And I like that they do that. I like that they at least use their own show moments as a reference point. But yeah, it's like the whole car theft plot is really, really dumb.
Yeah.
And that really bums me out. Teresa is talking to Ryan. She tells him that Taylor was propositioned to partake in a 3-way in the limo after prom, which more on that next week. But
was it with
it was both Korean guys.
I was gonna say, aren't they cousins?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That never stopped most of the characters in porn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've definitely seen a stepbrother or two.
Let me ask you this question, Joe. Is this the end of Teresa for the rest of the OC? Is this a series wrap on Teresa as she tells Ryan how... I actually do love... There's a scene where she's fighting with him, and she's literally just like... She's like, you realize that there are guys in this world who have never been in a fight.
Yeah.
She's just like...
There were some... Well, first of all, Teresa completely reads him to felt. It's just like... Look, she's like, I'm doing great. I got a nanny. I have a job. I was slumming it going to your prom. And here you are, repeating the same old patterns, getting stuck in it. You're about to go to Berkeley. And there were so many good lines in this episode. Right out the gate, getting announced Man of the Year, and then Seth is trying to make a joke, and then Ryan goes, "Well, first you got to be a man," and then just goes right over it.
There's a lot of good snappiness. There's also a very bizarre line that Sandy says when he opens the door, because the other subplot here is that Summer's trying to get the letter back from the house before they see it, and she opens the door and he's at the door, and it startles her. And she goes, "You scared me, Sandy." And he just goes, "Sometimes I scare myself, Summer."
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is such a weird, what does this line have to do with anything? It's such a weird thing for Sandy to say. I don't know if the person who was primarily writing the Sandy storylines in season 1 and 2 quit, but whoever has been doing it this entire season does not know how Sandy Cohen is, talks, anything.
No. And we really don't get, to be honest with you, the whole thing, to just go back to Sandy and this, you're gonna, if Griffin is going down, you're going down with him. Yeah. Thing. It's so interesting that, we don't get, I truly don't believe he really wants this hospital. You know what I mean? I truly don't believe he wants the hospital that badly.
No, it's like, what? And they, yes, a hospital's great. He's not really selling why this is the game changer to end all game changers at Newport. It really doesn't make any sense. And I hate that Sandy is literally covering up the truth. You know what I mean? Like, there was that implication, like, oh, maybe he's going to take this into his own hands. No, he's only going to give the DA the information on how much of a shitbird Griffin's been because it'll keep him out of jail. And that is not my Sandy Cohen.
Yeah.
That has never been my Sandy Cohen. And, like, that is so frustrating. And I do love, I mean, for a character like Seth, who I shit on a lot, Seth giving that, like, tough talk of, like, when Sandy's like, you're going to talk to your father like that? And he's like, I don't know. You haven't been acting like a father. Like, it's like, oh, god damn. Hot diggity damn. And then Seth being the one, it's like, you realize mom's relapsed, right? Like, have you been too busy to notice that that's happened also? Like, there's a great, like, dropping just a million things on Sandy Cohen. And we're going to come back to the Sandy stuff in a bit because the Man of the Year becomes kind of the end piece, the third act set piece for this particular episode. And I want to save that for the end. What I want to talk about right now is, like, first of all, I still don't love the Kirsten relapsing plot point at all. It feels like an unnecessary extra piece to this whole thing. Like, I think we could still get to where we're going without the relapsing. Seth bringing it up really makes it a little bit more valid. But what I wanted to talk about is going back to the Marissa Caitlin stuff. Sure. Absolutely hate Caitlin's roommate. Glad that, as far as I can tell, this is a one and done for this character because she is so unnatural and obnoxious of a character. But also, watching this episode knowing that Marissa dies in the next episode is infuriating because you're like, great, they're finally bonding. They're finally, like, seeing each other as sisters. And in 24 hours, you're going to kill this character and ostensibly probably fuck up Caitlin for life. Love that. So great. Like, like it just, that made me so annoyed and frustrated that that's the angle that they're taking with any of it. But
I mean, we also have to, like, Lucy Hale, who plays the roommate, right? Like, will become one of the big, like, stars of this generation of TV and film.
Well, you know, we've said before, there might be, I think when we finish the OC, we're probably, you know, this will be the end of the White People Problems feed. We might take a little bit of a break, but we've said that if we come back for another show, I believe it is a Lucy Hale starring show that neither of us have watched, which is Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've never watched Pretty Little Liars, and I feel like you need to have, like, a third person on. Who's I found the third person already.
Oh, it will be Caitlin of Bingetown TV. She was the host of my favorite episode of a podcast I used to produce a couple years ago. She used to host weekly Pretty Little Liars watch parties throughout high school. And it became so tied to her personality that by senior prom, the guy who asked her out to prom did it by leaving a note asking her to go to prom signed by A, which is, like, the secret code name of the, like, anonymous person in Pretty Little Liars.
Did she go to prom?
Of course she did. Of course she did. How could she not? Now she's getting married to her girlfriend in a couple months. But
yeah, lesbian.
But we'll get back to that later. All right, so let's talk about this final set piece. We have Seth is requested to go get something from the Newport group to bring to his dad's Man of the Year event. And he starts smoking pot in the office, forgets to put out the joint falls into the trash can.
Yeah.
Immediate fire. So much is on fire. And this is when I texted you. I've only texted you twice about the episodes we're about to discuss. And this was one of them where I was like, I don't even have the time to wait until we record. How is it possible that there are no water sprinklers in this office building to do anything when this fire is started? Because it's insane to me that a group like the Newport Beach group would not have some type of safety mechanism. And you said that you have an answer for me, so I want to hear it.
I mean, Matt, like, let's be real, right? Like, the model home burned. Like, like Caleb is not, Caleb may have been like a developer, but is not good at keeping things from not burning.
That is true. He's
my my answer to you is that it's always gonna be this way. Does it make it? It's no what, like, come on, are we really surprised that a company that made a model home that just like burned right away, like maybe cut some corners?
All right, you know what? Valid. that's a valid argument. Yeah, I was just like, I was like, how is this happening? But as much as I don't like the idea that there's just no sprinkle system to like have for this type of situation, and this is exactly how I wrote this. As dumb and awful as I think this entire episode was, I love the mystery at the end of we not knowing who the cops are showing up to arrest quite at this ceremony, right? That they've put together a compelling argument for them to be coming for Ryan, for them to be coming for Seth, or for them to be coming for Sandy in this moment. And I was like, you know what? I like that. I think that is smart writing. All of the puzzle pieces to get us there is bad writing, but like, I do like that until they are arresting Seth, it literally could be any one of our three men, like, of this show that's going to jail.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, like this episode is actually probably one of my favorite episodes of the series, of this season.
Yeah.
Because of how all of it comes back, right?
Yes.
Like all of the points that we thought were resolved are coming back in that, like, we have the drinking, we have like the Seth doing pot again, which, like, the wild thing is that Seth just has like a bag of weed.
Yeah. I will give you this, having watched what we're going to discuss next week. This does a better job of tying up this season than next episode does at all. Like, this should, in theory, have been your final episode of the season. Leave us on the cliffhanger of what's going to happen to Seth, and then do the fourth season as like the summer before college. You know what I mean? That's the way to do it. It's obviously not what they did. And we get this extra episode that, like, we'll get into it more next week, but like the crazy thing is that like an episode called Graduation takes up maybe 3 minutes of screen time in the entire episode. Like, you could have so easily just thrown the graduation scene from that episode into this episode and then just made this the season finale, and like it wouldn't have made a lick of difference. Anything.
Nothing.
91 Donkey Lane is a magical apartment complex that contains immense power, but lacks intelligent inhabitants.
What is happening?
I'm getting texts.
Why are we getting a lot of texts?
People found out what we did.
Oh, dividing Mike Myers into an infinite amount of tiny Mike Myers?
Listen to 91 Donkey Lane for free on Spotify or your favorite podcasting app. More at 91donkeylane.com. See you there, you donkeys.
Joe, there was a lot of frustration throughout most of this season. And one of the frustrations, I think, was like the soundtrack kind of losing steam for a large chunk of it. But this episode, I feel like we started to get back to the roots of what made the OC soundtracks fun, which is like a healthy blend of popular bands, old songs, and like obscure bands. And we had a ton of songs in this episode. So Block Party, The Pioneers plays when Ryan is driving Volchek to the hospital. The Runaways Cherry Bomb plays when Marissa's pretending to be the foreign exchange student. Eagles of Death Metal, Flames Go Higher plays when Marissa's fake stripping for this guy. La Roca, Some You Give Away plays when Volchek breaks into the car. The Vine Spaceship plays when Kirsten is talking to Seth. And then the final song of the episode, the Tongue with the Pioneers plays. I went with probably the most well-known of all these songs. Cherry Bomb while Marissa's walking up to this dude is just so perfectly utilized.
Yeah. It's so I was torn. I was torn between this song and I was torn between the song that plays in the beginning with the montage.
Yeah.
Because it's so classic OC. But like the way that I was also really high when I was watching this. So like the way that like my body changed when I was like, "Hello, Daddy. Hello,
Yeah.
Mom.
Cherry bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good song.
Yeah,
Joe, we're gonna have to sing that. If there's karaoke at San Diego Comic-Con, I think we have to go up there and sing that together.
There better be karaoke. Like I once did I ever tell you about the time I went to Nerd Eoki that happened in the Gas Lamp during Comic-Con?
No, but that sounds perfect.
It was perfect. People were in cosplay. There was a guy who like changed the lyrics to a song to be about Star Wars, and it was like on the fly. And I was like, is he doing a Weird Al? And I'm like, no, this is entirely original.
I do know that there are people who do that sometimes. I know that there was one guy that I heard tales of that would go to karaoke bars in this area and request Piano Man by Billy Joel, and then would just sing the lyrics that Weird Al had written to Piano Man, "Sling us a web, you're the Spider-Man."
I love that.
But yeah, that's we should look into that. I'm not much unlike the hit songs of the 70s. I don't love the nightlife and I don't love the boogie on the disco floor, but but I will go do karaoke with you if we can find a good spot that's not going to be like a 3-hour wait for a song. Just because I brought up I like the nightlife, let me tell you because this is a short episode so far. Have you ever watched SCTV?
No, but I know what SCTV is.
Yeah, it's like the Canadian version of SNL. There is a bit. Write this down and look it up after we're done recording.
Hold on.
That to me is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's a sketch called Perry Como Still Alive. And it's a commercial. It's a commercial for Perry Como's new show. And like the whole bit is like Perry Como, for those of you who don't know, was a singer in the 30s who had a very just like laid back singing style.
Baba loves the mambo.
Yeah, like so the idea is like, oh, he's Mr. Relaxation. He's the most relaxed man in showbiz. So each song is about like partying and or just like being alive, but it's done in the style of Perry Como, and he's more and more relaxed each time. So like at one point he's just like limply leaning on his backup dancers as they're dancing and singing, till it gets to the point that he's literally like lying in bed with the microphone on the pillow next to his face. But one of the songs is, I like the nightlife, I like to boogie on the disco floor. Oh, yeah. It's so fucking funny. So high recommend for that, everybody. And SCTV, when it was on television, truly was a pop culture moment, not unlike the OC itself. So, Joe, what piece of pop culture have you been digging into, be it old pop culture, present pop culture, or what you're predicting will be future pop culture?
So present pop culture, as of recording this, I like, my job is so interesting because it's like I'll like have a weekend, but then have to like work in the evenings a little bit, like just to support events that's going on. And so we have a 3-day weekend because we're recording this over Memorial Day weekend. And I was like, you know what? I have to work an event Saturday night and Sunday night. I want to still have like a little bit of a weekend. So what I did was like, again, I took a really large edible, I ordered sushi, and I finally got to watch the first 4 episodes of the season 3 of Bridgerton.
Okay.
And I'm so excited for this season. Well, one, because I think Bridgerton was a pop culture thing that I had mentioned a few months ago because I was rewatching it in anticipation for this. And now we're in season 3, and they're releasing it in 2 chunks. In fact, the week that this episode comes out, the
second chunk is out. Yeah,
the second chunk will be out. And I keep saying that season 3, my like subtitle is Bridgerton: the fat girl gets to fuck, and I'm just so excited. I have a song too. I'm like, the fat girl gets to fuck. The fat girl gets to fuck. The fat girl gets to fuck. I'm just so excited because like we're finally Penelope Featherington is finally going to get that Bridgerton dick. and it is like it doesn't need to be anything more than it is. That's the cool thing about Bridgerton. That's like it's just we're just gonna accept the world that this is in. And like the first couple seasons were about like let's just like what if like everything what if all the races were represented, right? What if there were just like we just accepted that the queen was black and like the nobility there's like Asian people. Like what if we just accepted that? And this season they're doing something cool where they are now it's like what if people of like different abilities are represented? Like one of the debutantes is deaf and one of the suitors is like in a Regency era wheelchair, which is basically like a giant wheelbarrow that they're just moving. He's just like moving him around. Like this is so great. And it totally makes sense too, because like when you watch Queen Charlotte, which is the like spin-off limited series that talks about, you know, the queen, how she became queen and all of the social societal change that it brought. It's like, okay, so that show is like, once we handled the racial question, everything else is on the table. Like the only thing we're not handling is like homosexuality.
Yeah.
That's the next frontier.
Yeah. I was like, that's where we're going to get next, I'm sure.
Yeah. What is yours, Matt?
So mine is sitcom based. I've started it around the same time that we started this. The New Girl. I watched all of The New Girl.
Yay.
It's fine. It's I don't think it I liked it. I liked it enough. So I watched this and then yeah, I like this. And I also watched Mindy Project. I think that both of them are interesting sitcoms in different ways. I think Mindy Project I enjoyed watching more, but I think that Mindy Project has more inconsistent quality. I think that like there is like 2 seasons of Mindy Project that are borderline unwatchable, whereas The New Girl I think was consistently good, but I just think it's too long. I just like at this point it's like, man, 200 fucking episodes of a show or whatever it is, like just feels like such a high commitment level. And I'm glad that like for the most part the days of like 22 to 27 season long sitcom runs is gone. But yeah, I was just like, that's what kept running through my head watching The New Girl was like, oh my God, every new season's like 22 episodes. That's so long. That's so much commitment. But yeah, I mean, I think when New Girl hits highs, like comedic and emotional highs, they are really, really good. Like those are like some big ass peaks. It's just the valleys would come into play where it'd be like, oh my God, like there would be like almost like when Barb and I were watching it, there'd be like 2 to 3 week breaks in between seasons. Like we would like knock out season 1 and then like literally do anything but watch New Girl for like 2 or 3 weeks before like we were ready to dive into the new season, because it's a lot of content.
Yeah.
Not unlike the OC. And Joe, the never-ending content of the OC is starting to wind down to a conclusion, because next week it's over for this season, and then it's like
maybe for us.
Well, no, I mean, look. We've come this far, and it's a gentle sprint to get through those last 16 episodes. So, like, I'm all in at this point. It would be insane to tap out now with just less than 16 hours of commitment left. So let's do it, Joe. Let's move forward. Let's wrap up this season. Let's give ourselves a well-deserved July off, and then in August we will just dominate these last couple episodes, final season. I'm saying words. It makes sense. We'll be back, guys. Bye.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.